One sec, guys. 90 seconds, guys. Hold on. All right. So let me look in the chat and see. Hey, Frank, and hey, Bernard. Glad to have you in here. And I see we got a few more people chiming in as we go. So I wonder, let me know if that photo that I used to announce the event was over the line. I just thought it was funny, right? You know, the investor realtor synergy, so to speak, and that's what we need to talk about today. So I can tone it down if you all are, you know, a little more conservative than I am with my sense of humor, but I don't mind that at all. I've always been asked to do that pretty much throughout my life from various folks. So anyway, why should this be any different? So where we are is week 5, and this is a 21-week event, if you will, series of events that'll continue to occur over the next several months. And let me turn this off here. So there's a deal right there. We just got the docs notarized, and they're going to be FedExed. See, I don't know if you can see the thing, but I probably can't see that. Completed. So that's good. Anyway, nonetheless, 21 weeks, 5 months. I'm giving you the macro level look at what I consider 20 absolutely essential aspects to being able to buy any house from any seller in any market without using any of your own money or any of your own credit, and doing it anytime you want. And I don't suspect that market conditions, whether they're hot or cold in the future, by future I mean the rest of your life, are really going to change things that much. Because I didn't invent this stuff. This has been done by folks for a century at least, longer than that, I'm sure. And there's been innovations, quite a lot of them. Some of them I'm going to go through over the next little bit. But you are going to be able to put yourself in a position to not have to worry about cash flow, cash, wealth, retirement, those kinds of things. And you can just do more of what you want to do in your life. That's what everybody wants. But you have to get the skills to make that happen. Okay, the best income stream is actually what you have right in here. You just have to turn it on. Sometimes you turn it off when you're sitting on the couch watching Netflix and eating hot Cheetos. You turn it off. Although in some ways you're not turning it off because you have deals coming in, because you've set a machine in motion. But the idea is that you're going to generate a lot more income using your skills that are in your brain than your brawn, using your hands and renting your time out to an employer effectively. So what we've covered so far is just the very beginning. So you can catch back up. Go into the events tab if you're newer into this group and catch back up. Look at week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, and here we are, whatever we are, week 5, week 6, whatever it is. And you can get caught up. There's also lots of other events in there before I decided to offer this structured training. And you might want to check that out. There's also a mini course that you can check out that synopsizes what we're going to cover over 5 months in 5 modules. That's in the guide section of this group. So with that in mind, understand what we're doing. We're going to go through, first of all, the strategy that I say allows you to be consultative with the seller. And what we're talking about tonight with respect to the investor-realtor synergy, or not tonight, today, with respect to the realtor-investor synergy, is part and parcel to the strategy, your ability to be consultative with the seller and not have to depend on them to sell you their house at 50 cents on the dollar or 60 cents on the dollar. Great if that happens. Those deals are sweet, right? Frankly, they're not even as sweet as the deals where we pay full price if you get good terms, because those deals become golden geese that keep laying golden eggs over and over and over and over again, which you'll learn as we go through things. But we upload these structures into your brain, the different alternatives that the sellers have, so that you can ask questions, and from those questions, the seller is generating you an offer that goes beyond just price. Okay, so you'll learn how to do that. Then that's tier one, is the strategy. Tier two is we have to learn what to say. How do we communicate with the seller in a way that compels them to understand their alternatives and choose what they think they might be able to live with? That is critical. Those two things, strategy and the seller call, that's 90% of your effectiveness as a real estate investor in terms of getting deals done. The third tier goes hand in hand with that, which is the ebb and flow of the call, the objections that come up, the questions that come up, and knowing how to answer those from a place of transparency, from a place of being genuine, from a place of being authentic, and doing it in a way that demonstrates your competency and your expertise. That's what people want. They want character and competency. And if you can demonstrate that in any aspect of life, you move a lot more quickly towards whatever goals you're driving to. So, of course, we're always working on our character, right? But that's actually the easiest thing to become an expert at. Just tell the truth. Just be a good person, right? You've been learning that since you were a kid. That shouldn't be hard, okay? You don't need me for that. Competency, everybody sucks in the beginning. You're incompetent. What Roy Rogers said, everybody's incompetent, just in different subjects. I'm incompetent in all kinds of things, so don't feel bad if you don't have the competencies right now, or if you went to YouTube University and you studied some videos and you're out trying it and it's not working. It's not enough. That's just a roadmap on how to do things. You need someone to help you calibrate, right? Like you wouldn't learn to drive a car from videos. You need somebody in there helping you understand what to do. It's dangerous to do that in a car. It's dangerous to do that with real estate. So there's my shameless plug to jump on a call. Let me show you what this entails financially for your future, and you can decide which way you want to go. So there is that option, right? To get that GPS level guidance, not the roadmap that I'm giving you here, but get that GPS level guidance where you're with me every day and I'm like, turn left, turn right, do this, do that. There's the bank, go get paid. Okay, that has tremendous value, and the value is way more than the pathetic amount of money that this coaching costs. And I'm not charging a pathetic amount of money because I'm a humanitarian or altruistic or generous or trying to give back. That's bullshit, right? I'm doing it for a profit motive because it helps me with deal flow later on. I know that I can get you very good at this, and later on, you might want to joint venture with me on some things. So I bring you in sort of at a loss-leading cost, and then I get you really good, and then we have a relationship. If you don't JV with me, at least I end up on your Christmas list because you know I helped you out incredibly for a very low price. Anyway, enough on that. I don't know why I'm turning this into a commercial. The important thing is we're going to go through all of these 20 topics over the 21 weeks, right? Because the first week is to explain what it is we're going to do. And what we're doing today sets up the approach that we have with the seller. It sets up the approach. Next week, we're going to actually go through the script, the seller script that we utilize. So I was incomplete in telling you that they're among the 5 tiers. So we've got our strategy, we've got our approach, we've got our ability to ebb and flow, dialogue with the seller and make deals. The 4th thing, which we'll go through later, is how do we put those into agreement? So I'll take you through the boring aspects of this, which is putting things in writing so that the professionals are directed on how to close the deals. And then the 5th is the best thing going in real estate as far as lead generation. Because once you get good at all this, now you need to generate the leads that help you get the deals done. And that's called Facebook Hyperdrive, or Hyperdrive, actually, inclusive of Facebook. You can learn a little bit of that on the early end, because I know I did an event on it in here. You have to find it in the events tab, or you can go into the guides, and I think it might be module 4 in the guides. Okay, but where we are today is benefits of getting a realtor license. So let me go through some of this with you. And by the way, if you're on here live, I'll look at these comments. Hey, Colburn, Thomas, and Adrian, and Tommy. I already said hi to Bernard. Matt, what's up? And who else? Who am I missing? Okay, and I already said hi to Frank. So if you come in here, remember that Ella Fitzgerald when she broke the glass in that old commercial? Is it live or is it? Does anybody know? Is it live or is it? What am I going to say? Write it in the chat if you know what I'm talking about. Is it live or is it Memorex? What's Memorex? Anyway, not to go off on a tangent, but if you're watching it on replay, let me know that you're in here, and if you have any questions, pop them in still, even if it's not live. I'll come in and answer them later. All right, so benefits of getting a realtor license. First of all, let me say that you do not have to be a realtor to do this. And most folks claim that you're better off not being a realtor to get into real estate investing. And I think that that's ridiculous personally. I used to subscribe to that thinking myself. That's why I'm not a realtor. But I've been doing it for so long that I have enough realtors on my team that I don't really have to get the license. Although, it might have some benefit, but not enough to make it worthwhile for me. And that's a choice I make. However, if I was starting over, and if you're starting over, get the license. Get the license. The only reason that I've ever heard to not do it is that you have to operate within a regulatory framework that involves compliance and disclosure. And I think to myself, why is that a big deal? I just said this is about character and competency. Well, why would you? The regulations aren't extreme. You basically have to be honest if you have to disclose stuff. I mean, so I have no idea why that would be a deterrent, other than in your marketing. It makes your marketing maybe a little bit less sexy if you have to put all this, business stuff in there. But there's all kinds of ways that we can deal with that where you don't even have to make the disclosure until there's some level of meaningful interest in the property. So I say get the realtor license is my view. And if it's not going to be you, it needs to be somebody very close to you who's on your team. So then that begs the question, well, if I get a realtor license, then I have to hang the license somewhere. And I got to split my profits with a broker. That's a good reason to not do it, but there's ways around that. And they're called 100% commission brokerages. You don't need to hang your license at Keller Williams or Century 21 or Berkshire Hathaway where you're splitting your commission. You don't even need to do it at EXP where it's capped how much you pay the broker. You sign up with a 100% commission brokerage. Nobody gives a crap that that the house is listed with Keller Williams. Nobody gives a crap. They care about, do they like the house? The person who comes and buys your house is going to be represented by someone you probably never met before. They're going to be represented by some other realtor. Unless you're in a smaller town, then you might know them. But the person who buys your house is going to have seen it online. From the MLS listing is all over the internet, and or the realtor sent it to them, and they're going to determine whether they want to buy the house based on the house, not whether it's listed with Keller freaking Williams, right? You can get great training from Keller Williams on how to be a realtor, but why do you want to be just a realtor? This is about being a real estate investor. So we get the license because it is a backdrop, it is a safety net that allows us to make a hell of a lot of money on leads we would have otherwise thrown out. Because guess what, folks? the leads that we don't close as real estate investors, they almost all end up where a realtor is getting paid, because the pool of buyers that seller is looking for, when they won't take any kind of payment terms or they won't take a discount on price, that leaves one option. That leaves the bank qualified owner occupant buyer willing to pay full price. Everybody wants that, right? Well, if you want that, guess what? The realtor industry has a monopoly on that. They've got one of the biggest lobbies in Congress to ensure that they keep that monopoly. They are able to illegally siphon equity that homeowners and houses have earned. And you might say, well, you got to have somebody to help guide people through the process. Well, you do. But it's gone from a time where, that was a reasonable amount of money that they made to where these houses, the average house is $341,000. Okay. If you get a lawyer to close to help guide you through the sale of a house, $600, $1,000 for a lawyer to close, that hasn't changed in, 10, 15 years. But in 10, 15 years, the value of these houses has gone up so much, and the realtor's commission is based on a percentage. And, now you're talking about some very, very serious money being given to somebody just in the computer, and it's in the computer, and it's fed to the world, and then a buyer's agent comes in with the buyer and does most of the work. The hard part about being a listing agent is selling the seller on getting the listing. And that's why I say you ought to play in that world, because that's where we live anyway. We're already on the phone with the seller. If they won't sell it to you the way we want to buy it, they're going to be listing it with somebody, or they're going to be paying a commission to the buyer's agent who brings that buyer. All buyers who are bank qualified, who are willing to pay full price, and who are going to occupy the property, unless they're cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, another old commercial, they are going to use a realtor. Because why wouldn't you? You get driven around in a Cadillac, you get taken to Starbucks, you get treated like royalty, taken out to lunch, and the realtor does everything for you. Sets up the appraisal, sets up the inspection, is a buffer zone in the transaction, sets up the title, sets up the escrow, works with the loan officer. Why would you do that by yourself when you don't have to pay for it? The seller pays for all that. That's the purpose of the commission, right? To pay to get someone to do all that stuff. So buyers take that free representation. So with that being the case, that means that everyone you talk to is relegated to, they're going to end up paying some schmendrick realtor who comes in behind you. Well, why shouldn't you be that realtor then? Why shouldn't you have that license? You were on the phone with them first. You demonstrated your character. You demonstrated your competency, but they don't want to sell it that way. Fine, I'm agnostic to that. I like you, and if you like me, I'll help you get the house sold in that pool where all the buyers are that you want. All of those buyers are represented by a realtor, and you're going to need representation. Okay, so I'll take you through what that actually looks like. But look, not everybody wants to sell the house the way we want to buy it. So what are you going to do? Throw the leads in the garbage? Don't do that. Okay, we're going to convert the folks who won't sell the house to us into listings. Other benefits. You can access the MLS. You can run comps. You can be the first to know about bank-owned properties. You can find, junkers if you're a wholesaler and get them cheap. You can list the houses that you are purchasing in the MLS effectively for free. You'll have a small transaction fee with your 100% brokerage, but you get to keep all of your commission, right? That's what I was saying. That was my point, is 100% brokerage, you keep 100% of the commission. You might pay a small transaction fee, a couple $100, but you're not going to have to pay half of your commission or $15,000 a year, or whatever it ends up being. Okay. Having the realtor license removes the concern of equitable interest, which we'll talk about later, and being able to sell contracts. Oklahoma outlawed having an equitable interest in a contract, meaning you have a contract on a house and then selling that contract. Illinois allows you to do it once, and then it's outlawed. You got to have a realtor involved. So you might, there's a lot of push for that to become pervasive across the nation. So again, another reason to get ahead of the curve and get the license. I already said disclosures and credibility. Why would that bother you? I think it helps you. Hey, look, you say to the seller, look, I'm licensed. If there's a trust issue, I have to operate within a regulatory framework. I have to comply. I don't want to lose my license over your house. I'm trying to do hundreds of houses here. Okay, you just deal with some Joe Schmo who calls you up trying to buy your house as an investor and they don't have a realtor license, you know, grab your wallet, look out. You're better off dealing with me. That would be the play, right? When you're on the phone with those folks. All right, so now I'm gonna do this for you. I have a feeling that sometimes the captions get loaded up in here. So this would be a good thing if I actually just kind of, instead of ad-lib this the way I normally would, actually read you the script that we use so that it'll be captioned. If it's not captioned in Facebook, you know, you guys could check out my YouTube too, subscribe to the YouTube channel. I haven't caught it up completely, but I load these up in there, and I think YouTube does put the captions on them. I think there's like a way you can toggle that on. So look, here's what happens. When you talk to the seller and the seller is not willing to take any kind of terms or monthly payments until we cash them out in full, then we have to explain to them in a nice way that they're just choosing a different trade-off. The trade-off with me is you get a lot more money for your house, but you got to be patient in getting it. And that's not for everybody, like you said. The trade-off with what you're talking about doing is you're going to get less money for your house, actually a lot less money because of the commissions, the buyer discounts, the loan points, the amount of time it takes, a couple months to get it sold, and the prorations and everything that goes along with that. And the closing costs, you know, it ends up taking down the amount of money you get out of this house. But the good news is you get it all wrapped up, you know, in just a couple of months, versus you got to be a little bit more patient with me to get a lot more money. So if you'd rather have that other route, you know, I get it. So that's what you're saying, right? Is you'll take that trade-off, a little bit less money in exchange for having it all wrapped up the traditional way. And you know, people might not agree with that. They're going to get less money. There's a worksheet. If you don't have that worksheet, I'll show you the difference between selling a house to us and how much money they get, and the difference between using a realtor. And you'll see all of those different diminishers, if you will, that take the net that the seller gets down quite a lot. Realtor commission, buyer's discount, inspection concessions, potentially loan points, closing cost, prorations. I've got a spreadsheet. So ask for that in the comments. I'll hit you with it later. But here's what you do, guys. I might keep you just a few minutes late if you don't mind. So I think actually, yeah, I think I will do it. Okay, so when somebody says, yeah, I get it. If I am if you bring me a buyer, I'll give you a commission. If you're a realtor, you're in position to make the listing presentation and go out to the house. So what I'm going to do here is I want to show you the math, but here's essentially the case that you're going to make to the seller is that it's very smart on their part, because it's extremely likely that if they don't sell the house, the ultimate buyer is going to be represented by a realtor. And you tell them, as a major real estate buyer, and this is if you're not a realtor, right? As a major real estate buyer, I have affiliations with leading brokerages. If you are a realtor, let's operate from the standpoint of we are, okay? But you can just change the language. As a major real estate buyer, I also happen to have a real estate license, and I buy enough homes that I know how to broker them better than anybody else. I'm much more likely to get you a higher price if I represent you than you're going to be able to get it on your own, because I wrote the playbook for the buyer's agents practically. I know exactly what they're going to do, all the tactics they're going to try in representing their buyer. If you go it alone, right? Remember, you're going against a professional. They're going to eat you for lunch. You wouldn't go into a court of law and be unrepresented if you were defending yourself, or even if you were prosecuting. You get legal representation. Well, you need representation when it comes to one of the biggest assets you have, which is your real estate. So the bottom line is that the increased price that you're going to get from having representation from the best realtor in town, namely me, is going to more than offset what you'd pay in commission. So wouldn't you agree that it's likely that I'll be able to get a few points higher out of the buyer, knowing, out of the buyer's agent in particular, knowing what they know and knowing their playbook for negotiation? That's effectively what you're communicating. You know, I'm realizing the script is a little bit too long for me to go through on this call. So I have a version of it in my ebook, which I'll send you. If you want my ebook, go ahead, put that in the comments, and then you won't even have to look at the caption. So I think that's going to be a better way of doing it. But I want to point out to you that sometimes people will say, no, I'm not going to use a realtor. And, you know, so here's the way we handle that. Well, you know, I hear you. I don't like paying those commissions either. The only problem is that most buyers who can get a loan today and have the needed down payments and the credit, they perceive realtor services free, so they use them. Now, you'd agree with that, wouldn't you? If they say no, then you continue. If they say yes, then you can go into, you know, that presentation that I just made a minute ago. If they say, no, I don't agree with it, then you say, well, you know, it's an extremely small percentage of for sale by owner sales that happen without a realtor. We've tracked this for years. And I know it's unfortunate, but let's face it. Why should a buyer go it alone when they can get a professional to drive them around all day? They get driven around in a nice car. They get treated like royalty. And they buy them coffee and lunch and all those kinds of things and set everything up for them. I mean, you'd have to agree it's very likely that the sale of your house is going to involve a realtor because that's where all the buyers are. And at the end of the day, you're going to end up having to pay a commission, won't you? And then a lot of them will say, well, I'll pay 3% if they bring that buyer. And then you're in, because we can go meet them. We can literally take that 3, list it where, I mean, you should be able to talk to them and get it up to at least 4, hopefully 6, but get it up to at least 4. If you get it up to 4, then you can list it at 2.5 to the buyer and 1.5 to you, and you're not even the one who has to do it. You just get like a virtual assistant to do that for you. So we show you how to do all that, you know, when you come in as a client. But nonetheless, if they still are not agreeing that they're going to have to do that, you say, well, where do you think that the buyer is going to come from? Because I'd like to know so I can go get buyers that aren't represented by realtors on my properties. And then you just ask them, you know, make them think about it, not in a confrontational way. Well, let me understand, why wouldn't that person use a realtor when that professional representation comes for free for them? All right, well, and then this is the only time that I suggest that it's okay to beg. Okay, because I think it just comes across in a way where you'll be someone that they will call back if you can't get the deal. So it's sort of like a joking kind of begging, right? So what I do is you'll say, okay, well, look, just do me a favor. I know you're getting a ton of calls from realtors that are wanting to list the house for you. And believe me, it's best to avoid those calls. It's best to avoid those solicitations if you can. You've been honest with me, and I'd like to ensure that you get the best representation if you ultimately decide you have to go that route. The only thing that I ask is if you end up deciding to list the property, or you start getting pressured into signing a listing agreement with someone, please, 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 check with me first. Check with me first. Will you please do that? Because I can absolutely guarantee you that I can connect you, again, if you're not a realtor, you connect them with someone on your team, or I can absolutely guarantee you that there's nobody better in the business than me at this, and I'm going to get you the highest price, and you're going to pay the lowest commission, which is what you want. Don't sign with someone until we've at least had a conversation. And again, I want to buy it. I didn't call you trying to get a listing. I want to buy it. We just can't come to the right terms where it makes sense for me to be the buyer. But I can still help you with this house, and I can do it better than anybody else. You want that, don't you? You want the highest price at the lowest commission, right? Or what you really want is the highest net that you're going to get on this. Let me meet with you and show you how we can do that for you. But don't sign with any of these schmendricks calling behind me. I love that word. Calling behind me, trying to get the listing. They're very good at sales and pressuring you into something, and then you're stuck. Then you can't get out of it for a while. Okay? So will you do that for me? And then you hang up the phone and you put them in the follow-up file. All right? Anyway, I spent too much time on the script. Give me less than 5 minutes, hopefully, to just go through why you should do this from a math standpoint. And if you have a piece of paper, go ahead and write this down. I want you to figure this out, okay? First of all, folks, are you making $1,000 an hour right now on your job? you can actually make more than $1,000 an hour in real estate when you put the whole thing together. And here's why. I want you to do this math. Okay. If you call 100 sellers, and I'm going to show you how to generate those leads. It's not, well, it took me a long time to innovate on how to do it, but you know, you're going to get these leads, right? When you come in the training, or wait till we get to that section, or go look at it in the events. I show you how to do it. But 100 calls. That sounds like a hell of a lot of calls to make, doesn't it? It's not. It's 1 hour a day for a month, because I'm giving you 15 minutes with each seller. You don't need to be on the phone for 15 minutes with every seller. Some you'll be on with for 30 minutes where the deal looks good. Others you'll be on with for 5, 10 minutes. The whole thing ends up averaging out. And it should be less than 15 minutes, even if you're long-winded as me, right? Which is hard to do. It's hard to produce this much wind. And I'm from the Windy City, right? So look, 100 calls equals 25 hours. Why? Because in an hour, you should be able to make 4 calls, 15 minutes per call. So 100 calls is 25 hours of work. That's less than an hour a day for a month. And what I'm telling you is, if you learn to do this right, unless you're messing up on the phone, in which case you need the training, not just the YouTube University, not just Facebook Live University that I'm giving you here. You need coaching and calibration, the type that, you know, me and maybe a few others can give you. Doesn't have to be me, guys. I don't even take everybody, but you ought to have a coach is what I'm saying. And you just get one deal out of that 100. You should be able to get way more with the way we teach you how to do it. But let's say you get one of these real estate deals that we like, where it's a good price, good terms. I don't even want to touch these deals if I'm not going to make at least 25 grand on them. So that's the lowest you're going to make. So if you make one deal and you make $25,000 out of 100 calls by doing this for a month, then that's $1,000 an hour. It's actually $250 per call. I'll bet you some of y'all would sign up with me right now if I was to pay you $250 per call. You'd be calling till the cows come home. You wouldn't even sleep tonight. Okay, you ought to take an interest in doing that for yourself, because you learn how to do this, you get the skills in your brain, then that manual labor of making the call, right, isn't you renting time to another employer. It's you using the skills we put in your brain so that you can make $1,000 an hour, right? $25,000 if you just make 100 calls. Now, here's where the realtor piece comes in. If you suck, and everybody will at first on the phone, what happens to the other 99 of those sellers? I just got done telling you they all end up paying realtor commissions, because if they're not going to sell it the way we want to buy it with good price, good terms, they're fishing in that pool of the owner-occupant, bank-qualified buyer who's willing to pay full price and is represented by a realtor. So that means 99 of these people, well, let's say 90, okay, to be conservative, 90 of them are going to end up paying a commission. Why shouldn't you get that commission? You're on the phone before they even make that determination. So you got 90 shots on goal to get somebody to do something with you that they're going to end up doing anyway. Think about the math on that. Let's say we don't get all 90. Let's say we get a third of them. That's 30 listings. The average house is $341,000. If you made 3% on that, that's almost 10 grand. If you make 1% on that, that's 3 grand. Let's say we meet in the middle somewhere. We make 5 grand on each listing. Times 30 houses. How much is that? That's only if you bat 333, right? Which is a pretty good percentage. But that would be $150,000 a month on the junk, the stuff you were going to throw away. That's over $1 million a year. Just for taking the time to go get a license and then getting with a coach to learn how to do all this. Are you kidding me? Let's say you suck at the realtor presentation. You only get 1 in 9, and you're competing against a bunch of people who aren't even like really realtors. Most of the people who are realtors now, like 90% of them, are part-time firemen, part-time teachers, homemakers. They're not like, they're doing that as a side hustle. Okay, but you can compete in that world for sure and get 1 out of 10. Even if you don't get 1 out of 10, let's say you get 1 out of 10. Well, then that would mean what? Out of 90, that would be 9 deals times 5,000. That's 45,000 a month. That ain't a bad payday. That's a $500,000 a year. Let's say you royally suck. You get two or three of out of those 100 people you talked to. That's 15 grand a month. Okay? So now you're at, $150,000, $200,000 a year on top of whatever else you're doing. Guys, get the realtor license. Quit playing around. Get the realtor license. You got to be nuts not to get a realtor license if you're new in this business. I'll show you how to do it. I kept you all too long. Post your comments in here. Let's stop all the hate. Yes, most realtors are morons. But guess what? That means you can compete in their world and win by not being a moron. I love realtors, right? But I'm just saying that that is an industry where there are a lot of people who are just nincompoops. And even realtors will admit that, right? So look, get the license, get the training, and add the investment piece to that. Add the realtor piece to your investment piece. The investment is that we learn is core, and then the realtor piece is a great safety net to add to the income that you get from the investor deals. Okay, so anyway, I hope that was helpful for you guys. If you can make it next week, it's going to be a good one because I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to go through the seller script, right? So how do we talk to sellers so that out of that 100, where I'm saying you're going to get 1 in 100 even if you suck, that's 25 grand. If you're good, maybe you get 2, 3, 4 deals out of that 100, and now you're talking about, you're talking about much better money, right? You make 100 grand a month. That's just front end, by the way. That's just the down payment that we get from our buyer. It doesn't even include the cash flow that we get, by having it for a period of time. It doesn't include the potential that we get to do it again because our buyer ends up not buying it. It doesn't include the back end payday, the spread between what we sell it for and what we bought it for if our buyer cashes us out. So much reason to get in this business. So if you want to find out what this entails financially, what this could look like for you, watch more videos, or I'm not hard to find. Jump on a call. I'll jump on a call with you. There's not going to be any pressure. Jump on the call. Let's find out if this is a fit, and if I can help you, I'll try to do that. And if you want to invest in the coaching, it'll be a great decision for you to make. But if not, you can use the roadmap. All right, folks. Have a wonderful Saturday. I've got to go deal with some things out at Lake Mead out here. Get the boat ready to do some wakeboarding. I got the Charlie Brown, snowboard or whatever that is, surfboard. Anyway, I'm in the mood to go get juiced up about doing some wakeboarding later this spring. Although a lot of you are in the country are dealing with 18, 19 inches of snow, you can see this beautiful sun out here. Come visit us out in Vegas, folks. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I'm going to go check out Kool and the Gang tonight. Kool and the Gang at the Westgate. Get my groove on, right? So anyway, y'all have a wonderful Saturday, and we'll catch up with you later. Peace. Appreciate y'all.